Then we've got Athena. She's one of the virgin goddesses of the pantheon. She's the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. The emphasis on that is on the strategic part. The Greek gods had two gods of war, and they tended not to worship Ares because, as I will mention later on, he's the god of bloodlust. And the Greeks were much more into reason, and they didn't like the idea of senseless warfare, so they would tend not to build temples to Ares nearly as much as they would to Athena. She just was much more balanced, which the Greeks liked a lot. Later on, when the Greek gods became Roman gods, Mars, who would be Ares in Greek mythology, got much more of attention from the Romans. They tended to favor him a lot more. So anyways, Athena is also a patron of crafts, especially weaving and carpentry. There's a fun little myth about Athena and Arachne, who became a spider. Athena's the one that you see most often helping the mortal heroes out and, you know, giving them advice. So her symbols include the owl, the olive tree, and the spider. Next we've got Apollo. We're halfway through. He is the twin brother of Artemis. I think Apollo is like the soft, pretty boy. Really, I think he'd be played by Orlando Bloom if you could probably make Orlando Bloom blonde. But at the same time, you know, Apollo is the god of disease, and he's also the god of healing, which is kind of an interesting, like, dichotomy there. But his main thing is that he's the patron of music, song, and poetry, and prophecy as well. He's not married, and has terrible luck with women. You see a lot of stories about Apollo falling in love with a nymph, and they just, like, run away from him for some reason. Like, he's supposed to be super handsome. So now his twin sister Artemis is the goddess of the hunt. She's the one that's the really, feminist. She's a virgin, of course. She's really famous for turning the mortal men who see her bathing into, like, pigs or deer, and, like, watching them die by their own hunters, and will even sometimes accept human sacrifices, which is a big no-no for most of the Greek gods. Like Zeus will not let anybody do this human sacrifice thing. Artemis and probably Ares would be two of the gods that would probably be okay with that. So she's goddess of the hunt, and she's really big on the chastity thing. So she's got a bow and usually has like a doe or a stag with her. Next we've got the ever famous Aphrodite, who of course we all know is the goddess of love and beauty. Her origin story is kind of mixed, depending on who you talk to, but for our purposes we're going to say that she rose from sea foam. So if you happen to have someone say that they think they are more beautiful than Aphrodite, then you're gonna really have quite a bit of punishment inflicted on you. You do not want to say that. Aphrodite is married to Hephaestus, who we're gonna get to later, but she's not even close to faithful. I don't even know that Hephaestus and her have any kids at all. So now we've got Ares, who I've already explained is the god of violent battles and bloodshed. He's one of the only sons of Zeus and Hera. As I mentioned, the legitimate children of Zeus, they don't turn out very well. Ironically, Ares usually loses when he's fighting against other gods, so he tends to like to just make the mortals go into battle so that he doesn't actually have to do much of the fighting, because in reality he's kind of a coward. Doesn't like to be wounded in battle. Hephaestus, as mentioned, is Aphrodite's husband, but he's also the son of Hera and Zeus. He's the god of technology, blacksmiths, fires, and volcanoes, which is kind of exciting. He's got a pretty wide range, and he's a very useful god. Does all sorts of great things with making weapons and armor for heroes. But the problem is that he tried to protect Hera from Zeus, who was like beating on her, and Zeus got really angry and threw him out of Olympus, and Hephaestus fell down and hit the ground and is now lame. So he's got these like automaton things that help him work because he doesn't actually have the power of his legs. But he's typically considered to be pretty ugly, which is why Aphrodite doesn't tend to like him very much. So then we've got Dionysius, who is the god of wine. This is the guy that Hestia gave up her throne for, because he's the newest of all of the gods. He tends to just wander around the earth, and he's followed by this train of like these crazy women called the Maenads, who tend to attack and tear apart anyone who resists his partying. Before Dionysius was born, Hera kills his mother, and Zeus takes the baby, the unborn baby, and sews him into his thigh for the last 3 months of the pregnancy, and actually kind of gives birth to him on his own. So that's why he can be considered a full-fledged god, is because technically Zeus kind of gave birth to him. And last but not least, we've got Hermes, who is the god of messengers, travelers, herdsmen, and thieves. He's really the god of like boundaries and the crossing of boundaries, and they're all people that cross boundaries. He's a trickster, and there's lots of fun stories about Hermes playing tricks, especially like the Apollo and the cows trick. That's a fun one. Because he's the god of travelers, he's the god that guides the living when they die down into the underworld. So he's like the only god that really gets like almost free passage down into the underworld.